Hello and welcome to Legislative Report. I'm State Representative Sue Helm of the 104th District in Dauphin County. On today's program, we'll be touring the historic and beautiful Fort Hunter Mansion. Fort Hunter is a 19th century plantation complex that hosts 9 structures listed on the National Register of Historic Places. Located at 5300 North Front Street, the mansion was built in 1814 and can be toured by the public from May until December. Fort Hunter also holds an annual Victorian tea at the mansion. I invite you to come to this unique experience on Sunday, December 8th from 1 to 4 p.m. There is a fee to enter which will cover your tea, sandwiches, and dessert. Join me now as we learn more about the historic Fort Hunter Mansion. I'm here today at Fort Hunter, a beautiful site which I want the people of my district to be able to tour today with me. Years ago, I used to come by here out on the road and always think, why couldn't I be part of that? Am I allowed to go in there? Can I come and see what it is? I didn't know what it was all about. So then I saw an advertisement in a newspaper about they were having their annual meeting, and it said it was open to the public. So I came to the meeting. Before I knew it, I was on the board, the Friends of the Board of Fort Hunter, and then later went on to be on the Board of Trustees. And I've experienced so many wonderful things here at Fort Hunter that I just want to let everyone know what happens at Fort Hunter and that you can come here and experience the same thing that I have experienced in the past couple years. Today is the Victorian tea, but like I said, there's many, many other things that happen here at Fort Hunter. But today when I came up, here's Dr. David Rogers, and he's the greeter here. And how many years have you been working here, David?
This is my first year on the board with the Friends of Fort Hunter. It's been an enjoyable experience.
What a cold day for you to start out with.
Especially for a man who does not like it when it's less than 70 degrees.
Well, I think you're having a great time here. I see a smile on your face.
It's
today.
absolutely wonderful. It's a nice service to the public, and Fort Hunter's a true treasure for the residents of Dauphin County.
And what else is happening here today except the tea? I'm sure you know other things that are happening.
Yes, we do. In the barn across the street, we're hosting a craft show, which has been held for a number of years. We also have a toy train display. And in the tavern, which is diagonally across the street from the barn, we're also having a Victorian cooking demonstration.
Well, that sounds great. Well, let's go in the mansion here, and then we'll go to some of the other events so you can see what's happening at Fort Hunter today. Every time I come here, I know that Polly Rubendahl is going to be here to greet me, so it's wonderful to see you here today, Polly. How has the tea been today?
Very well attended despite the wind and the bad weather, but we're very happy with the crowd. Yeah.
Well, I knew when I came up and the parking lot was full and I had to walk quite a distance, I knew that there was a lot of people here, which is great. We love to see people come to Fort Hunter. But we'll walk around and talk to some of the people.
Yes,
and
please feel free. Wander anywhere you like to.
All right. Thank you very much. We're currently in the living room of this wonderful mansion here at Fort Hunter. And we're joining up with Carl Dixon, who's the Director of Parks and Recreation for Dauphin County. And Carl, I know you're very familiar with this mansion, so tell me when it was built.
Well, sure, Sue. It was built in 3 different sections. The earliest section is 1786, and then we're in the section that was built in 1814, and the rear section was built in 1870.
And I've always loved coming up here. I said, like years ago, I didn't know that I could come up here, and then I came to a meeting, and after that, I was always felt welcome. But could you explain why people would come here?
Well, sure. It's a great spot to learn all about local history, Pennsylvania history, and through that, American history, frankly.
And I know that you do things with school kids and scouts. Like, tell us a little bit about that.
We have so many different programs in this park that we do things for everybody, basically. But a lot of our educational programs do involve school children and also scout programs. Because this site has so much history to it, we can do different programs focusing on different elements of that history. So we have a big Native American history program. We do a hands-on element where kids actually get to get involved with things. So many museums are hands-off, and certainly this house is that to a a certain extent, but we have another facility on the property where they get their hands dirty, and then they can come over here and see it in its setting, you know, in a historic house. So we have lots of stuff. We have concerts too. I mean, we do all kinds of things here.
One of the concerts.
Oh man, they're throughout the summer, of course, and they're outdoors. We do a jazz concert, we do a wine concert, and then those you have to pay to come in. And then we also have free concerts.
So I guess people just bring their chairs, their lawn chairs, and come up and have a great evening.
It's the truth. It's a beautiful scenery, beautiful setting, and we think we put on a pretty good show too.
Well, I'm sure you do. And this room we're in right now, it's just gorgeous. So if somebody wanted to come here for a tour, how do they do that?
You just come up to the front door and ring the doorbell. We're open 6 days a week, every day except Monday, from May 1st to December 23rd. We do close the house down for the winter months. And you get a professionally guided tour of the house where a guide will take you through and explain the history of the property as well as the rooms in the house. I think about 12 rooms in the house are open to the public. They all have historic furnishings that are original to the home, and they've been decorated as they would have been about 100 years ago.
Can we talk a little bit about what's in the room? I always admired this photo here, and I said earlier, you tell me the story, but I forget it. So tell me once again, because I want to remember it this time.
Well, in diaries of the folks that have lived here, that's referred to as Uncle Harry. That is of a young boy. In the 19th century, young boys wore dresses to a certain age, probably around 10 or 11, and then they graduated to breeches. And that painting was done in 1855 by a man by the name of Lang. And we actually think it might be a posthumous a painting of a young boy that passed away, which was a way to remember people who had gone before. Of course, we like to romanticize history and think how beautiful it would be to live back then. They didn't have the medicine that we have today. They didn't have the social services that we have today. So it was a tough life, even if you were wealthy like the people that lived here.
And this was a beautiful place to live, but you're right, they didn't have what we have now. But tell me about the people who did live here.
Sure. This house was built by a man by the name of Captain Archibald McAllister. And he was in the Revolutionary War. He was pretty pretentious to build a big fancy house like this that early. He made most of his money off of selling whiskey in the tavern house here on the property. It passed to his oldest son, John McAllister, who also carried on the family traditions, sold whiskey. But that petered out over time, and certainly they did farming here as well, and they owned a lot of land. This was also a slave-owning property, which very few people realize. It was one of the last properties in Dauphin County to own slaves, and the Craig family was instrumental in keeping this estate going. They were the worker bees, if you will. Anyway, as time went on, and of course all of that changed, during the Victorian era, the Bose family bought this property, and they're only the second family to own the house. Bose Street's named after them.
Oh, okay, right in Pembroke.
Exactly.
Okay.
And they owned the house, or descendants of theirs owned it all the way until 1980. And at that time it was given to Dauphin County as a gift. And the gift at the time was 50 acres, the contents of the buildings, and a small endowment to help maintain it. Now over time, and as you were on the Board of Trustees here, we received a second gift of 150 acres. And then we also received another gift of another 11 acres. So they're all separate properties, but if you connected the dots between the three of them, you would get the whole estate, which was at its peak 1,500 acres. Pretty sizable piece of property. So that's basically the names of the people that have lived here over the years. And I didn't talk about the people that lived here before history, if you will. This is also a prehistoric site where we know people lived here as far ago as 9,000 years. And there's an archaeological dig that takes place here every fall that we keep pulling up more artifacts by archaeologists, and we're learning a lot more about the site.
I believe around when you have Fort Hunter Day is when I see the archaeological dig. Could you tell me a little bit about that?
Absolutely. That's been going on for, I think, 52 years now. Our annual Fort Hunter Day, it's always the third Sunday in September. It's a fall festival. The majority of things are free, and there's just a little bit of everything here. There's certainly crafts to buy, but we have pony rides, carriage rides, entertainment, lots of exhibiting of the old-fashioned way of doing things, and of course food to purchase. And it's just an annual tradition for lots of people, including us. We love it.
I know you mentioned the tavern. I believe that day there's food in the tavern.
Actually, that you're thinking of May Day.
Okay, maybe I come there for lunch. That's right.
That's
Okay.
right. Where we have a beautiful tea room in there. In the it's usually the first Sunday in May, and that's when they have lunch in there. That's right. On Fort Hunter Day, there's usually a reenactor in there telling stories.
Well, actually, you're right. 400, I come up for the pork sandwiches.
They're
That's
the best.
What you have. Absolutely.
They are the best.
So, also the tavern. Now, what else do you do in the tavern?
Well, that's predominantly, that's the offices for the Parks Department of Dauphin County. And Fort Hunter is one of 7 sites that we own throughout the county. Another big one is Wildwood Lake, Wildwood Park. Lots of people know that and do a lot of walking there. Elmerton Gardens out on Elmerton Avenue is a community gardens project that's really cool. It's been going on since 1974, has like 308 gardens for people who don't have room to plant a garden. They can do it out there. We own Henninger Farm Bridge, a cover bridge in northern Dauphin County. Wickinesco Creek Park is ours, and Likens Glen Park is also ours. I think I left one out. Fort Hunter Conservancy is another property.
And I know there's a covered bridge on Fort Hunter that was resurrected, like you saved money to put it back together again?
Yeah, that was their last major restoration project on the property, and it has a kind of a neat story. To backtrack a little bit, this place has been a museum since 1933, and it was privately owned by the Meggs family. And in 1940, a covered bridge in Perry County was going to be torn down and replaced with a cement one. Well, Mrs. Meggs, that really broke her heart, and she saw the need to preserve it. So she paid what was then the Department of Transportation $70 for it, had it dismantled, and had it re-erected on the front lawn of the mansion. It stayed out there until 1980, when we built the park, basically. We dismantled it, put it in the barn in 1980, with the hopes of putting it up someday. And about, I think it was maybe just 2 years ago, we finally, after scrimping and saving, got the money together and put it back up. And that's really in honor of the Meggs family who donated this property to the County of Dauphin.
Well, I know everyone was glad to see it was back in place and enjoy walking through it. The one event that we're going to visit today is the Victorian Tea. That's always in December. We look forward to the tea. So tell me about that. How did that start, and exactly when is it every year? And people, I guess they can't come today, but they're going to be able to come next year to the Victorian Tea, and they'll see little bits and parts of it in this little video we're doing here. But tell me about the tea.
You bet. That's an annual tradition, and it's the beginning of the holiday season in the Harrisburg area, really. And that's the day that the house is all decorated with natural greens by the Harrisburg Garden Club. And they serve, the Friends of Fort Hunter serve a formal tea here. And I've watched kids grow up. Parents will bring their daughters, usually as little girls, and every year they make it an annual tradition. And it's a formal tea in the true sense of the word. There's silver tea services, linen tablecloth, special finger sandwiches. I'm not an expert on all of the details of it, but it's very labor intensive, and people don't get to experience that anymore. And in the 19th century, that was a common way to share an afternoon with a friend, sit down with tea, and tea was also very expensive, so it was considered kind of a luxury. And so this is an event that we do every year, and it really livens up the house for the afternoon.
Well, it is a wonderful event, and the tea's great. Always that spiced tea, what seems to be the most popular tea. But when they come to the tea, they also get to look around at the mansion, and there's different things happening in the mansion. I believe this tea, there's a magician upstairs that's going to do a magic show, and it's always entertaining. But mark it on your calendar for next December and bring your daughter and have a great time here at Fort Hunter at the Victorian Tea. And this room, I believe, is decorated already for the tea. Did the garden club do this room?
You bet they did. Now, I'm in charge of getting the tree every year.
Okay.
And in the past, I've taken a lot of guff for the bad trees that I've brought in. But this year, I think I did okay with that.
Looks great. Like Carl is Director of Parks and Recreation for Dauphin County, but he has a long history. He kind of grew up here at Fort Hunter as the Executive Director, so I always kind of call it his baby, and he's done a wonderful job, and that's why he's so informative of Fort Hunter and the mansion and all the grounds. So let's take a tour around and see different parts of the mansion and the grounds.
Great, I'd love to show it to you.
We're currently in the downstairs sitting room, and Carl, what can you tell me about this room?
Well, it has a real early 19th century feel to it. You see the furniture's all up against the wall. Because they didn't have central heat, you'd pull your chair to the fire to get warm or over to a window for more light. The woodwork in here is original from 1814, and it was a crisp white with a nice deep color on the walls. And the carpet was custom woven for this room in Red Lion by a firm that does all the premier historic sites, and it's a very good ingrained carpet. It's amazing, but these homes had wall-to-wall carpeting originally, the wealthier homes like this one. And it's made out of wool, and it's very typical pattern from about 1820 or so.
Well, that's interesting, and beautiful fireplace to pull your chair up to.
Yeah, you'll notice that it has iron backs on it to help push the heat into the room a little bit more. It was, of course, hard to heat this house with 11-foot ceilings, but I guess if you had a lot of money, it didn't much matter to you.
You can do just about anything. What's this photograph? Who is this? Do we know?
We do. That's Daniel Dick Bose. He's the guy that bought the house in 1870. Only two families have ever lived here, the McAllister family and the Bose family, which is amazing for a house this old.
Yeah. And I said Bow Street in Pembroke, but also extends into Harrisburg, I guess the whole way to Front Street.
You bet. And actually, Daniel Dick was a big proponent for public schools. At the time that he was around, everyone paid to, if you could afford it, to go to a private school. And he was very involved in civic duties, and one of those was to have public schools for people. So and there's a Bose school in downtown. I believe it's been turned into apartments, but I'm not sure.
That's absolutely. Education, we always work on education, correct? So way back then they were doing it. I love these windows and the wide windowsill, which is typical of the old mansions.
Yeah, this house is really solid, and really no expense was spared to make sure that it was going to last a long time. The walls are about a foot thick, just like you see, and the plaster's right on the stone. Frankly, when a thunderstorm comes, I love to be in this house because you can see it roll across the river and kind of hit the house, and you know it's not going anywhere.
Well, the river is just beautiful up here. Like, we're inside today because it's very cold outside, but when you come up here, it's just, you can just stand on the front porch and just look at the river, and you just love being here. It's just such a wonderful feeling.
That's one of the biggest assets, I think, of the Harrisburg area. We have this beautiful riverfront. We have it downtown, certainly in Harrisburg, which is a beautiful park. And then we have a good half a mile up here at Fort Hunter as well. I'm a big boater. I love going out there and kayaking around and seeing actually the property from the riverside up, which is a whole different view.
See, I learned something about Carl all the time. I didn't know you were a big boater.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we have a little cottage up in Dauphin. It's beautiful.
Oh, really? That's great. And we also have a guest book over here. I said when I walked in here, I think my signature's either late 80s or early 90s in here, but when you come to Fort Hunter, please be sure to sign the guest book. Hi, Tina. How are you doing today with this tea?
Great. It's been a great turnout. We're really excited about how many people showed up, and people are drinking tea and enjoying it.
And I was going to say, I know you usually have the spice and the regular. What's the most popular today?
Spice tea, definitely.
Always the most popular. What else is good?
Well, we have an assortment of cookies, and we have little sandwiches that are ham salad and chicken salad, and just all kinds of different desserts, fudge. It's good.
I always love little sandwiches that they have. And I know the day before, yesterday, I believe you were quite busy up here because it takes a lot of time and effort that the volunteers do to put this tea on. So there's a lot of people behind the scenes. I know were working here yesterday, and it looks beautiful as usual.
Thank you very much. Thanks for coming.
So are you a member of the board, the Friends, or?
I'm a member of the Civil War Dance and Art Society.
Oh, okay.
And
We
just
just-
helping out the Friends today.
Wonderful. We appreciate that.
Oh, welcome.
Thank you.
First floor, and remember we have the couch.
Thank you. You're welcome. I'm going to try this wonderful spice tea. That's always been my favorite.
It's everybody's favorite today.
It's just as good as ever. So.
Good. I'm glad you enjoyed it.
I just want everybody to see this. And you can't make it today if you're watching this on TV, but you can make it next year. So just remember, it's always the first Sunday of December from 1 to 4 here at Fort Hunter Mansion. We're currently in his summer kitchen here at Fort Hunter. It's actually just walked across from the tea, so this event is coinciding with the Victorian tea today. But currently I'm here with Beth Miller.
Right.
And I hear that she's a great cook and she's also a seamstress. But right now, what are you doing?
I am handing out some samples of the apple pie that we baked earlier today. And we baked this in a Dutch oven, which is right over there on the hearth. You can see it's a cast iron container. And you cook in the Dutch oven by putting coals underneath of the container and coals on top of the container. And so it's just like a regular oven, except that you regulate your temperature with coals instead of turning a knob to regulate your temperature. And you can bake anything in a Dutch oven that you can bake normally. And people are surprised at how good the apple pie tastes. And I think that they're surprised that they can do it over the hearth too.
I think so. It looks a little bit different than a Dutch oven that I'm used to. And what else did you do here today?
We've done a lot of different traditional Christmas cooking things. We roasted a goose, and we have another goose that's cooking on the string over the hearth. And that is turning slowly. And what's actually cooking it is the heat from the fire as well as the embers from the coals. So as long as we keep the temperature hot enough, that goose will cook just like it'll cook in a regular oven. And we hang it from a string so that the grease will come out and drip out into the pan that's directly underneath it. So later on, we're going to make Yorkshire pudding to go along with our goose.
Wow.
Then we also did a number of plum puddings, or Christmas plum puddings, and that had to mature on my kitchen counter for about 2 weeks, but you could actually let it sit for up to about 40 days. There's a lot of brandy in it, and that helps it stay preserved with the brandy, and it also adds to the flavor. So the plum pudding has a lot of harvest and exotic fruits in it that you might not have in your cupboard every day, like figs would be imported or dates would be imported. And we used citron, candied citron, and candied orange peel, and lots of different raisins and molasses. And the dark color comes from the few plums that we put in, and the molasses and the raisins. And each of those containers would boil for about 6 to 8 hours. Actually did that yesterday over my stove so that we would have something to serve today. But we have another one boiling in the kettle in the back corner. Right, exactly. So we also made a meat pie this morning in the Dutch oven, but we didn't have the temperature regulated quite so well. So the top crust got extra burnt. But nobody seems to be upset about it.
I was going to say, absolutely. I see happy smiles on people's faces when they taste it.
And they're surprised that, again, that you can cook anything that you can cook in a regular oven, you can cook over the fire. And the third thing that we have is roasted chestnuts. So we've got chestnuts that we've been roasting pretty much all day, off and on. And that's also right in one of these containers. And it's called a spider. It looks like a frying pan with legs. It has a lid on it that's heavy because the chestnuts will burst if you're not careful and you cook them too quickly. And they sound like you can hear the fire popping, but that's where the sounds in the song come from. Roasting chestnuts, something that will provide pop pop pop, because the chestnuts would burst. And if you happen to have one in front of you, it will get chestnut meat all over you because there's so much moisture in those. So
today you didn't have to go to New York City to get chestnuts. You could come right here to Fort Hunter and taste them.
Exactly right. That's exactly right. And what we were trying to do is let people have an idea that you really can cook anything over a hearth that you can cook in a regular house. And sometimes it even tastes better because of the smell and the ambiance. We don't have anybody that is looking unhappy with their food samples, so I think it's all going well.
Well, I think this is just great. I just wanted the people in the area to see this and what happens here at Fort Hunter. It's just such a fun place to come and educational, and I want everybody to show up here next year, and all through the year the different events will be letting you know what happens here at Fort Hunter. We're currently in the upstairs bedroom of the Fort Hunter Mansion, And as I look over here, I see there's displays. Carl, can you tell us about the displays?
You bet. Fort Hunter has a phenomenal 19th century clothing collection, and some of them are displayed here. The exhibit changes on an annual basis, but Mrs. Meggs collected a lot of 19th century clothing, and it is just an incredible collection, and it's actually stored in a climate-controlled vault on the property, the majority of it. But there are bonnets and men's top hats in there, a pith helmet, and all kinds of accessories that we don't think of today. They're kind of foreign looking, but they were very important in the time.
So you do change it periodically. So if somebody came a year ago, they could come back again and see all new items here.
Yeah, especially the dresses, and you have to because the textiles are very delicate and you can't leave them out on display for too long.
Mm-hmm. Well, Carl, obviously it takes money to keep Fort Hunter going. Like, how is the funded?
Well, the short answer is that the property is owned by Dauphin County, it's managed by the Board of Trustees for Fort Hunter, and it's supported by the Friends of Fort Hunter, who raise money at events. So we combine all three of those to make things happen here. The Dauphin County commissioners pay for the groundskeeping, that kind of thing, and staffing. The Board of Trustees take care of the buildings, and the Friends are kind of the icing on the cake. They do the redecorating of the rooms, and they support a lot of the volunteer programs.
You know, we're talking about the Friends, and I'm sure there's somebody watching this program that would love to be a friend of Fort Hunter. How do they accomplish becoming a friend?
Thank you. That's a great idea. The Friends of Fort Hunter a membership form can be found on our website, which is just forthunter.org.
Well, there you go. It would be wonderful if you check into that and become a member of the Friends, because it's so many activities here. When you're actually a member, you feel like you're more a part of it, and you come up here and enjoy all the events here at Fort Hunter. We're currently in the gift shop here at Fort Hunter. But before we talk about what items are here available to the public when they come to visit the mansion, I was just curious, what happens when it floods in Harrisburg? Does Fort Hunter get flooded?
Well, the amazing thing about Fort Hunter is the mansion never gets flooded, knock on wood. It sits up on a bluff by itself, but I can't say the same about the Tavern House. It gets flooded just about every spring, and some people think it deserves it, frankly. But no, it's high and dry here.
Well, that's good. We'd hate to happen to a lovely place like this to be flooded.
Yeah.
But I didn't know the mansion got flooded. I mean, the Tavern House, I didn't know that got flooded either. So you must do a good job of cleaning it out or taking care of it.
We have got a great crew that works on this property and in the Parks Department in general, and they keep track of everything and are very proud of how it looks.
Well, I'm sure they do, because it's always beautiful here. Carl, tell me a little bit about what's here in the gift shop if people want to come and buy something Victorian.
Sure. Well, first of all, of course, any revenues generated here go right back to Fort Hunter. So it's very important to us that people shop here. And the manager of the property is also the buyer for the shop, and she makes sure that there's educational items here that reflect the Victorian heritage and history of Fort Hunter. So there's all kinds of stuff, especially for the holidays, of course. You know, we have lots of Victorian-looking stockings and ornaments, and there are lots of books. People who are interested in history can purchase things here, along with old-fashioned candies or soaps, postcards, a little bit of everything.
I believe they're all handmade soaps, aren't they?
They're made locally, I think, up in Halifax, actually.
Okay. Halifax, that's 104th District. We'd love to hear that.
Yeah, this is a great area. There's something for everybody, and it's amazing what gems are here.
Well, I think that's it. I mean, I love all the people from 104th District to know about Fort Hunter, but no matter where you live in Pennsylvania, it's a great place to come and spend the day. So, Carl, you've been wonderful. You're very informative. Thank you so much for enlightening everyone about Fort Hunter. We appreciate that. You've been watching my visit to the historic Fort Hunter Mansion. I'm State Representative Sue Helm. Again, I hope you can make the annual Victorian Tea held at the mansion on Sunday, December 8th from 1 until 4 p.m. In addition to tea, be sure to visit the Centennial Barn for its greens sale, the Kids Only shop, and the Craft Reunion shop. These are all included in the fee. For more information on this event, you can call 599-5751. Thanks for watching.